Hello, welcome to Crash CSS Public Administration. I am Samara Ali, your instructor for this course, and I am delighted to begin this journey with you. Public administration is one of the most crucial subjects in the CSS syllabus, not only because it is a high-scoring paper, but also because it is a subject that directly explains how the state functions, how policies are carried out, and how citizens ultimately experience governance. Before exploring its approaches, debates, and models, we must first understand what public administration actually means. Public administration is essentially the organized activity of government. It is the machinery through which laws, political decisions, and public policies are transformed into real services and actions. A widely cited definition describes it as that sector of administration that exists within a political system and is primarily responsible for carrying out the decisions made by authoritative decision makers. This means that when elected representatives formulate laws or make promises, it is the administrative machinery that turns those decisions into results on the ground. Scholars have offered classic definitions that shape the discipline. Woodrow Wilson called public administration the detailed and systematic execution of public law, emphasizing that administration is the practical side of government. Leonard D. White described it as the management of men and materials to accomplish the objectives of the state, highlighting both the human and material dimensions of governance. Dwight Waldo defined it as the organization and management of men and materials to achieve governmental purposes, showing its managerial and structural nature. Waldo even warned that attempting to define public administration in a single sentence can cause mental paralysis rather than clarity, because the field is vast and interconnected with law, politics, management, ethics, society, and public service. What unites all these perspectives is the recognition that public administration is the action part of government. It is how the state functions every day, from running schools and hospitals to collecting taxes, issuing licenses, maintaining order, and responding to emergencies. Throughout this course, we will rely on respected texts by Hetty, Rosenblum, and Denhart to build a strong and exam-focused understanding of the field. Let us begin this journey with clarity, purpose, and curiosity. Now that we have an initial understanding of public administration, it is important to explore the major approaches through which scholars have analyzed and interpreted it. Public administration can be studied from different angles, and each angle reveals different priorities, values, and assumptions. A standard framework identifies three major approaches: the managerial approach, the political approach, and the legal approach. Together, they shape the way we understand administrative behavior and decision-making. The managerial approach views public administration primarily as a field of management. It emphasizes efficiency, order, predictability, specialization, and technical competence. The foundational idea is that administration should be organized scientifically, similar to modern business management. Early reformers like Gulick and Erwick promoted ideas such as planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and budgeting as core administrative functions. Max Weber's bureaucratic model, with its hierarchy, merit-based recruitment, and rule-bound operations, remains central to this approach. The managerial view sees public administrators as neutral experts, whose primary responsibility is to deliver services effectively and economically. The political approach, in contrast, argues that administration cannot be separated from politics. It emphasizes values such as democratic responsiveness, public accountability, representation, and citizen interests. Administrators operate within a political system, respond to elected officials, and deal with competing societal demands. This approach highlights the reality that administrators influence policy design, face political pressures, and must consider public values. Rather than neutral technicians, administrators are active participants in governance. The legal approach places the rule of law at the center of administration. It argues that every administrative action must be grounded in constitutional and statutory authority. Administrators must follow legal procedures, respect due process, and act within clearly defined boundaries. This approach protects citizens from arbitrary decisions and ensures that administrative power is exercised legitimately. In practice, modern public administration blends all three approaches. Real administrators must be efficient managers, responsive public servants, and lawful actors simultaneously. Understanding these approaches helps us appreciate the complexity of government operations. Public administration plays an enormous and multifaceted role in society. It is through administrative systems that governments translate policy intentions into concrete actions and services. The role of public administration extends far beyond routine paperwork or organizational management. It encompasses everything required to make government functional, stable, and responsive. It touches every aspect of a citizen's daily life. Public administration ensures that laws passed by legislatures are properly implemented. When parliaments approve budgets, administrators allocate funds, supervise expenditures, and monitor results. When policymakers design welfare programs, administrators identify beneficiaries, distribute benefits, and evaluate outcomes. When leaders commit to public safety, administrators organize police systems, emergency services, and disaster management responses. From maintaining national infrastructure to regulating industries, issuing passports, managing public hospitals, and supervising educational institutions, public administration is continuously at work. The scope of public administration is extremely broad. Administrators operate at national, provincial, and local levels, each with its own responsibilities. They handle developmental activities, regulatory enforcement, service delivery, and public communications. Public administration may involve strategic planning, budgeting, personnel management, procurement, public relations, crisis coordination, and community engagement. It also extends to semi-governmental bodies, public corporations, and partnerships with private organizations and NGOs. A key feature of public administration is that it forms the link between public policy and real action. Public policy represents the intention of government, while administration represents the execution. Without administrative capacity, policies remain unfulfilled. Scholars like Hetty describe public administration as the vehicle for government action, and Hamilton noted that administration encompasses all operations of the body politic. This highlights the field's importance in shaping the lived experience of governance. Public administration not only implements decisions, but often contributes to policymaking as well. Administrators advise ministers, provide technical insights, collect data, evaluate outcomes, and recommend reforms. The modern administrator is both an implementer and an advisor, making public administration a dynamic and evolving field. Public administration is shaped by long-standing theoretical debates that highlight tensions within governance. One of the most famous debates is the politics-administration dichotomy. Woodrow Wilson argued that politics and administration should remain separate. According to this view, elected officials should make decisions, while administrators should execute them neutrally and professionally. Wilson believed this separation would increase efficiency, reduce corruption, and strengthen objectivity. However, scholars like Robert Dahl later challenged this idea, arguing that politics and administration are deeply intertwined. Administrators participate in agenda setting, policy design, and stakeholder negotiations, making complete separation unrealistic. Another major debate concerns democracy and bureaucracy. Democracies rely on elected representatives, public participation, and transparency, while bureaucracies rely on hierarchy, expertise, and standardized procedures. At times, these values appear to conflict. Excessive bureaucratic power may seem undemocratic because administrators are not elected. On the other hand, elected officials may lack the technical expertise required for complex governance tasks. Critics worry that bureaucracy could undermine public will, while supporters argue that bureaucratic professionalism ensures continuity, protects citizens' rights, and guards against political instability. Modern scholarship recognizes that neither politics nor administration can function independently. Administrators cannot ignore political realities, and politicians cannot govern without administrative support. The challenge for public administration is to balance political responsiveness with managerial neutrality and legal integrity. Bureaucratic accountability mechanisms such as audits, legislative oversight, judicial review, and public transparency help maintain this balance. Understanding these debates prepares students to analyze governance systems critically. These tensions continue to shape administrative reforms in countries around the world, including Pakistan, where issues of political interference, bureaucratic autonomy, democratic expectations, and public trust remain central to governance. One of the most influential debates in public administration revolves around the tension between efficiency and equity. Efficiency refers to achieving goals with minimal cost and maximum output, while equity refers to fairness, justice, and equal treatment. These two goals often pull administrators in opposite directions. The rise of new public management in the late 20th century brought efficiency to the forefront. Inspired by private sector practices, governments were encouraged to think of citizens as customers, prioritize performance outcomes, reduce costs, decentralize authority, and introduce market-like mechanisms. Scholars like Denhard point out that efficiency and rationality became dominant values during this period. The goal was to make government slimmer, faster, and more productive. However, focusing heavily on efficiency can undermine equity. A policy that saves money might disadvantage vulnerable groups. A quick process might ignore marginalized communities. A strict performance measure might overlook citizens who require additional support. Critics of new public management, especially proponents of the new public service model, argued that public administration cannot be reduced to cost-benefit calculations. They emphasize that government exists to serve all citizens fairly, and that public value, trust, and social justice are equally important. Equity demands that public administrators ensure fairness in service delivery, regardless of a person's socioeconomic background, ethnicity, region, or identity. Equity requires administrators to consider the needs of disadvantaged groups, uphold due process, and follow principles of non-discrimination. Many public policies now require safeguards to ensure that efficiency does not come at the cost of fairness. Administrators must balance both values. Good governance requires efficiency to protect public resources and equity to protect public rights. Neither value can be ignored, and modern public administration emphasizes finding approaches that meet both goals simultaneously. Public administration is guided by foundational values that ensure legitimacy, trust, and good governance. These values shape how administrators think, decide, and act. Among the most important values are rule of law, efficiency, equity, and responsiveness. Rule of law ensures that administrators act within legal boundaries. Every decision must be grounded in constitutional principles, statutes, or regulations. This prevents arbitrary use of power and maintains citizens' trust in the fairness of government. Rule of law also protects citizens' rights by requiring administrators to justify decisions and follow due process. Efficiency and economy remain central values because governments must use resources responsibly. Wasteful spending undermines public confidence and reduces the government's ability to meet societal needs. Administrators therefore strive to plan effectively, organize resources wisely, and achieve results with minimal cost. Although efficiency alone cannot define good governance, it remains essential for maintaining financial discipline. Equity and fairness are equally critical. Public administration must ensure that all citizens are treated impartially. This requires non-discriminatory procedures, merit-based hiring, fair allocation of services, and adherence to ethical standards. Equity also extends to social justice, requiring administrators to consider the broader impact of policies on disadvantaged groups. Fairness strengthens social cohesion and enhances public trust. Responsiveness highlights the expectation that administrators listen to citizens, respond to feedback, and adapt services to changing needs. Public administration is not simply a mechanical process, it is a relationship between government and the people. Responsiveness helps create a government that understands and addresses real-life problems. It encourages participation, transparency, and accountability. These values interact constantly. Rule of law ensures fairness, efficiency improves service delivery, equity protects vulnerable groups, and responsiveness builds democratic legitimacy. Public administration is strongest when these values are upheld together rather than pursued in isolation. Public administration has evolved through different models that reflect changing societal expectations and governance challenges. Two of the most influential models are traditional public administration and new public management. Traditional public administration dominated much of the 20th century and was grounded in Weber's theory of bureaucracy. It emphasized hierarchy, clear lines of authority, formal rules, standardized procedures, and merit-based recruitment. This model viewed administration as a neutral, rule-bound, and predictable system designed to ensure fairness and stability. The administrator's role was to faithfully execute laws and instructions from political leaders. Gulick's POSDCORB, planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, reporting, and budgeting captured the core administrative functions of this model. The strengths of traditional public administration include reliability, consistency, and strong internal control. However, critics have pointed out that it may lead to red tape, slow decision-making, rigidity, limited innovation, and excessive dependence on hierarchical authority. As societies became more complex and citizens demanded more responsive services, the limitations of rigid bureaucracy became more apparent. New public management emerged in the late 20th century as an attempt to modernize government. Inspired by private sector techniques, it sought to make government more efficient, flexible, and customer-oriented. New public management promoted decentralization, performance measurement, contracting out, managerial discretion, results-based accountability, and market-like mechanisms. The idea was that competition and managerial freedom would improve service quality and reduce costs. While new public management led to improvements in some areas, it also attracted criticism for weakening equity, reducing accountability, and treating citizens as customers rather than participants in democratic governance. Critics argue that government is fundamentally different from business and must prioritize public values rather than profit-like efficiency. Today, many governments blend both models, combining the stability of traditional bureaucracy with selective tools from New Public Management. Beyond traditional public administration and New Public Management, two modern models offer more citizen-centered and collaborative approaches: the New Public Service Model and the Governance Model. The New Public Service Model, developed by Denhart and Denhart, argues that government should focus on serving citizens rather than steering them. This model emphasizes democratic participation, public engagement, community building, and shared values. According to this perspective, administrators should not behave like corporate managers, but like facilitators who help citizens articulate their collective interests. The goal is to strengthen trust, foster participation, and uphold public interest rather than merely improving efficiency. In the New Public Service Model, citizens are not viewed as customers who consume services, but as active participants in democratic life. Public administrators therefore focus on collaboration, dialogue, integrity, and transparency. This model rejects the idea that the market can guide public decision-making and instead emphasizes values such as justice, citizenship, and public trust. The governance model reflects another shift in modern public administration. Governance recognizes that governments today rarely work alone. Instead, they coordinate with private companies, nonprofit organizations, community groups, international agencies, and multiple layers of government. Governance, therefore, involves networks, partnerships, shared responsibilities, and horizontal coordination. In this model, administrators must manage relationships, negotiate interests, build coalitions, and oversee complex systems rather than simply issuing orders. Governance highlights the importance of decentralization, multi-level decision-making, public-private partnerships, and collaborative policymaking. Both models underscore the idea that modern governments operate in interactive, diverse, and interconnected environments. Administrators must be skilled not only in management and law, but also in communication, negotiation, collaboration, and ethical leadership. These modern models help public administration adapt to 21st century realities. Public administration in the Islamic tradition is rooted in principles derived from the Quran, Sunnah, and the practices of early Islamic governance. These principles emphasize justice, accountability, moral leadership, and service to the community. While Islam does not use the modern term public administration, its foundational teachings provide a clear framework for ethical and effective governance. The concept of khilafah is central. In Islam, humans are considered vicegerents or stewards on earth, entrusted with responsibility. Administrative authority is therefore a trust, not a privilege. Leaders and administrators must act with integrity, humility, and a sense of accountability to God and the community. This perspective establishes an ethical foundation for all administrative actions. Justice, or adl, is another fundamental principle. The Quran repeatedly commands justice and warns against favoritism, oppression, and corruption. Administrators must apply rules impartially and ensure that citizens receive fair treatment regardless of status. The principle of shura, or consultation, emphasizes participatory governance. Leaders are expected to consult their communities and consider diverse opinions before making decisions. This establishes a culture of dialogue and inclusion, preventing authoritarianism and promoting collective responsibility. The Islamic administrative model also includes concepts of welfare, charity, social solidarity, and protection of the vulnerable. Zakat, public treasury management, judicial independence, and moral accountability all contribute to a holistic system of governance. In Islamic public administration, leaders are servants of the people, not rulers over them. Governance is an act of worship when carried out with sincerity and justice. These values remain deeply relevant in Pakistan, where the Constitution emphasizes Islamic principles in public policy and governance. The historical development of public administration in Pakistan is closely tied to colonial legacy, constitutional reforms, and evolving governance structures. When Pakistan emerged as an independent state in 1947, it inherited the administrative machinery of the British Indian Civil Service, often described as the steel frame of British rule. Officers from the Indian Civil Service who chose Pakistan formed the foundation of the new nation's civil service. In the early years of Pakistan's existence, administrative continuity was essential because the new state faced immense challenges, including refugee management, institutional formation, and political instability. The inherited system, though colonial in origin, provided the structure necessary to govern a newly formed country. Over time, Pakistan modified this system to meet its own needs. In 1951, the civil service structure was reorganized under a federal public service commission, mirroring the British approach to merit-based recruitment and administrative professionalism. The 1954 Constituent Agreement created an all-Pakistan service that allowed flexibility in appointments across provinces. These early reforms helped maintain coherence in administration during a turbulent period. A major transformation occurred in 1973 under the government of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. The Civil Service of Pakistan was replaced by the District Management Group, DMG, as part of a broader administrative reform that established the All-Pakistan Unified Grade System. This reform created multiple occupational groups, including the Pakistan Administrative Service, formerly DMG, Police Service of Pakistan Foreign Service, and others. A common training program was introduced at the Civil Services Academy to develop cohesion and shared administrative culture. Subsequent decades saw further changes. Military governments under Ayub Khan and Zia-ul Haq introduced modifications such as lateral entry and quota-based appointments, which expanded military influence within civil administration. Administrative centralization and political interference shaped the bureaucracy's role and autonomy. Meanwhile, academic study of public administration developed in Pakistan's universities in the 1950s and 1960s, supported by international experts. Texts by Hetty, Denhard, and others became standard references for students. Today, Pakistan's public administration reflects a blend of colonial structures, post-independence reforms, military-era interventions, and democratic aspirations. The Pakistan Administrative Service remains the top generalist cadre, responsible for district administration, policymaking, and governance. Understanding this history is essential for CSS candidates because it provides context for contemporary administrative challenges, reforms, and debates. As we wrap up this first video of public administration, thank you for staying with me through these essential starting points. We explored what public administration is, the approaches that shape it, its key values, core debates, governance models, the Islamic perspective, and the historical development of the field in Pakistan. Everything you need to begin your CSS preparation with clarity and confidence. If this lesson helped you, please subscribe, press the bell icon, and share it with fellow aspirants. Your support keeps Crash CSS growing and motivates us to bring more high-quality, exam-focused content. Thank you for learning with us. More lectures, practice sessions, and full topic-wise guides are coming your way. Stay connected and stay consistent.